What's up, everyone, and welcome to this technical indicator breakdown video. In this series, we are going to be breaking down different technical indicators for you guys that you can add to your tool belt as a technical trader or investor so you can increase your profits and minimize your risk. In this video, we're going to be starting off by looking at the pivot point standard indicator. And if we go to our indicators and strategies list here, we go to the built-ins, and we type in the pivots, the word pivots. We will get the pivot points standard indicator right here, which I have favorited already. There's another one right here, which is pivot points high and low. That is not the one that we are talking about in this video. There's also a bunch of other pivots indicators here under the public library. So these are ones that different people in the community create. But for this video, we are going to be using the pivot points standard, which I already have pulled up right here. But just a quick note and pro tip on TradingView, whenever you're using an indicator and you learn a new indicator, you can add it to your favorites by clicking on this little star right here. It'll add it to your favorites list, which you can access right here. You can see these are all of my favorite indicators myself, but the pivot point standard one is right here. So whenever I want to access that, if I'm trading or I'm charting rather, and I'm looking around at different things and I want to get a new indicator pulled up, I go into here, I scroll down, and it's right here. I don't have to go to the built-ins and type it in. It's a lot quicker that way. So the pivot points standard indicator is a very simple indicator to learn as well as use. So this indicator is really just creating these horizontal support and resistance levels for price. The way that these are calculated is it takes an average of the previous price history. So it would take the average of this pivots like in between right here and right here. The average of these prices to come up with this next set of pivot levels right here. And the way you can use these, well, actually, before we get into how to use them, I would like to describe what you're actually looking at right here. So you have your P level right here. This is your pivot level. So if price is above this level and it trades into it, this will act as support. If price is below this level and trades into it, this will act as resistance. But then below the pivot level, you have your S levels. It goes from S1 all the way up to S5, and those are support levels. And then you have above the pivot level, you have your R levels. And your R levels go up from R1 to R5 as well. It's very, well, exactly the same as the support levels. And they just act as resistance or support levels for price when it trades into them. Now, one of the ways you can use this, there's two ways that we're going to talk about in this video, how you guys can utilize the pivot indicator. One of the ways you can utilize it is as a take profit level. So let's say down here you entered a trade, you entered a long on Bitcoin somewhere down here, and as these new pivots got printed right here, you were in the trade, and you were like, all right, I want to take profits somewhere. Where should I take profits? Well, the first pivot resistance level is going to be right here at the R1. So you could take some profits right there, and you can see that price reacted to this level perfectly with a push down and a higher low in price comparison to this one. And then we traded up from there. You could also take profits at the next one right here, where you can see people did that and the price rejected off of this level. And then we continue to go up. We trade right through the R3 right here, but then we go right down very shortly after that. And now we're currently going up into the R1 right here. So if you were to go long somewhere down here, you could take profits up here at the R1 level. Now, besides taking profits, another strategy that you can utilize with the pivot points standard indicator is using it with support or resistance levels. So for instance, let's go to the 4-hour time frame and look at this in action and how it played out on this trade right here that we talked about in a previous video. So this purple zone right here, this purple rectangle, is this white candle right here. This white candle was our low, and then we had a lower high in comparison to this one, and then a lower low. So this was a support level initially, You can tell because we pushed up in price right here, but then we closed below this level. So when we came back into it, we knew it was going to act as resistance. It did just that. We rejected off of that level. Then we came through that level, closed above it, and then we knew, okay, this level should now act as support. So we're looking for an entry. We made an entry here. We got a little push up in price, about 4%, but then we trade back into this level. Now, as soon as this pivot level prints right here on the close of this candle opens, and you know that this pivot level is inside of this support level. Now, what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that these two levels are confluent with each other. And that just means they're telling you the same story as a trader or investor. And that is that this level has, buyers should be stepping in to buy this asset at this level. People that are trading the support level should be buying it because they're trading the support level, and people that are just trading the pivot indicator will be buying on this pivot level. So that's two sets of buyers in one location. So that increases your odds that that level should hold as support. And so what you could do is, as soon as this candle closes right here and this candle opens, you could put a bid right here on the pivot indicator and put your stop loss right below this support level, because you're not just playing the pivot indicator, you're playing it with the support level. And so you put your stop loss below the support level, because if the price goes through the support level, then the support level was not valid in the first place, and you want to be out of the trade or investment, so then you do not have to continue losing money, and it minimizes your downside risk. And so we would go long right there on the pivot indicator, and you can see that as the price runs into that level, it wicks into that level and then closes way up here, signifying a very strong buying pressure right here. Let's see if the volume reflects that. Yep, you can see that we have an above average bull volume candle right here from people buying that dip. We swept the low of this candle right here, and then we were off to the races. And so that trade, could take you could take this trade from here up to the R1. And that's what some people did, and you can tell because as soon as we went into the R1, we formed a higher low right here. The price pushed down enough for us to form a higher low in comparison to this one. Then we came up again, came down, and then we traded above into the next R2 level. And so you can see the pattern here. The pivot was acting as support. The R1 was acting as resistance. But this R1, I want to point out that it's not just acting as resistance because of the R1. It's also confluent with this resistance level right here. And the reason this is a resistance level right here is because we saw price went down right here, traded up, so this level held a support, the bottom of this purple level, and then we traded down. So when the price comes back into that, it should act as resistance, and indeed it did here with one test, two tests, and then the third test we pushed through this purple zone. But then you can see here once again, as we go into the R2 level, here we have a level that is consistent with, or confluent rather, whichever word you prefer, with this yellow resistance level. And this yellow resistance level is on the 12-hour time frame. So you can see on the 12-hour time frame, this is our last up candle before this down move that we saw right here, meaning people were buying up at this level. So if we return to this level, people that were buying will try and sell their positions so they can get out of their losing positions. And that's what we saw right here. We saw a rejection. And so you could take the short trade there if you wanted, or you could just take profits if you were in the long from down here. So those are your two options, but either way, you would have made a good call in my opinion, because from that point, we traded down about over 5%. So if you were to short the level, you would have had a 5% profitable trade. If you were to take profit there, you would have had taken profit up about 15% from entry. So now we are currently trading into the R2 again, and you can see that this level is holding once again as a resistance level. And so people, this is what you want to see when you're using an indicator. You want to see people stepping in and the price reacting to the levels that an indicator is telling you are valid. And so these are the two different ways you guys can utilize the pivot indicator. You can either use it to take profits on an existing entry or position that you already have, or you can also use it in concert with a resistance or a support level like this one right here, or like this one right here to go long on a support level, or to go short on a resistance level. And that gives you just an extra, the pivot indicator gives you just that extra little bit of resistance or support on that support or resistance level. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to note that I don't remember if I talked about this in the video just yet, but when you're in price discovery mode, which means that you're in an area of price that price has never been before for an asset, like right here when we traded up on this white candle, we traded above the previous all-time high here of 42K, and we had never been up this high before. So people in the market do not know how to appraise the price of the asset in those areas, and that's why it's called price discovery, because the market participants are discovering in real time what they think the asset is worth. And so right now, when you're in price discovery mode, which we're potentially about to go into once again if we go above this high, because this is our last resistance level from historic price levels, because we've never been up this high before, we can use the pivot indicator to give us levels to potentially take profits or sell our positions. And so you can see on the daily time frame, the next one is up here at about 71K after this R1 level. But if we go to the hourly time frame, you can see that there's a couple more that are closer. This one here is about 61,700, and then the next one is about 66,250. And so these are good levels that I will personally be watching to see how price reacts to. If we go up into those levels, I will probably take some profits there on my Bitcoin positions, as this indicator and something like a Fibonacci level is really the only two things that I know of that, you know, the levels that people look to either take profits or sell some of their positions when we're in price discovery. So I hope this video was helpful for you and that you guys can now add the pivot indicator to your tool belt as a trader or investor. If you like this video, give it a like down below. Share this with your friends if you think it'll be helpful for them, as we want to definitely spread the love around. And if you would like to get updates on future updates, or future videos that we post of different technical indicators like this, great educational content like that, as well as sharing some of the potential trade setups that I am seeing as a trader myself, as well as just some technical analysis that I do, and some other cryptocurrency market update things on different altcoins like Ethereum and Luna and a bunch of other cryptocurrencies. Subscribe so you can get those updates. All right, guys, that's all I got for this one. Until next time, onward and upward.